Hello and welcome to another edition of City TV's interactive legal education program, The Question of Law. You're surprised, I'm surprised. Of course, I'm in the seat today, sitting in for a regular host, David Kweku Sechi. We have an interesting issue, legal issue, of course, for discussion in today's edition. But we'll take a break here. When I come back, we'll delve into the matter which actually concerns you, because everybody uses this public good that is up for discussion in this edition. We'll be back after the break. Stay with us.
City TV is live on DSTV. Go to channel 363. On GoTV, access City TV on channel 182. On a digital TV, please press the menu button on the remote control and run a news search on your TV. Take note that without an antenna, you cannot access City TV on your television. City TV can be accessed on a free-to-air digital box like the GoTV and Star Times box. City TV, it's your world.
You're welcome back from the break. This is still the question of law. Of course, we have two permanent panelists on this program every week, in every episode. Joining us once again this week is Selom. I don't know. It's a private legal practitioner. Welcome, Selom.
Thank you. Welcome too.
Also joining us is Clement Kojo, who's also a private legal practitioner. Welcome, Clement.
Thank you, Duke. We will have to also welcome you. I think you are the stranger.
Yeah, I'm the stranger. I'm the stranger on this
session. Or you're a deputy, or what was the position?
I am a speaker, not the speaker. Quas speaker. No, I'm not. I'm not quas speaker. I am a speaker.
So you have the full rights of the speaker.
I have the full rights.
Rights, bestowed on the office of the speaker.
Yes, close with the full rights of the speaker. But I have not lost my representative mandate.
You want to keep that?
It's very, very important. Yes. So those are my guests. But today we're dissecting a very important issue that many people in the country do not avail their minds to. We all use roads. I mean, it's one of the public goods that, I mean, if you're looking into it theoretically, we cede a part of our rights and a part of our liberties to government, and in exchange for that, we get some of these public goods, including roads. We're talking about roads and expanding generally into the laws on construction in this country. There's a classical story or an issue that has come up from Taipei, which is a suburb of Accra, where residents are up in arms with a contractor of a road in their neighborhood over a lot of issues, several issues, blocking, routes to their homes and so many other issues which have legal consequences. That's exactly what we're dissecting. But of course, we need to take a look at the story from Taipei.
Usually, the sight of laterite on roads give people a lot of assurance that the deplorable roads will get done. But for residents in this side of Taipei, which is close to the Taipei market, they say that these laterites have been abandoned here for close to a week, and it is affecting their businesses and their livelihoods. We've been speaking to some of them.
I don't live here. I'm in London, and now and then I'm here. If not, I'm over there.
So what's happening?
What is happening is, as you see it, why they did that, nobody knows. They never told anybody. You don't know who done it, and this is the situation we are.
How's it affecting you?
It affects me very bad. Not only me, but you can't enter your house. When I came yesterday, right now I have to go some miles to put my car, and this is not good. They should have let people know, residents know, before they do this stupid thing.
Since they started working, I mean, you need to consider the people in the area. I know a lot of people in the house that have things in the house to move. Then because of this thing they came to do here, I mean, it's been almost a week. yeah, it's a week already, and then nothing has been done. The next street behind us too is been the same thing going on. I mean, you block almost all accesses to the whole area, and it doesn't really tell well. I mean, the contractor doing this project should know better that people are doing businesses. I have cars in the house I'm supposed to move out to sell, and they are just stuck up. There's nothing you can do. So, I mean, the contractor knows what to do.
This is one of the cars Nana is selling. Is an S-Class Mercedes, and he's had to park it here because the road leading to his house has been blocked as a result of the heaping of these latrites on the road.
Before I have to offload my things in front of my shop. Now I can't do that. I have to move all the way to the street, take part of the street, and offload the goods over there. Now what is happening is I have to pay extra money for my workers to offload and carry the things right down to that place. That's inconvenient.
How long has this been?
Almost 7 days now. 7 days, yeah. We all park our cars along the road, and you can imagine the dust. What is going to happen?
Well, this is where I live, and I think I was sleeping somewhere in the morning, between morning and afternoon. I heard they were doing some work. I know construction is going on. So I didn't come out to find out what it was. I just got up to realize they have deposited this, is it laterite or gravel you call it, up to the end there. So I said, oh, so does that mean we can go out, assuming there's an emergency, what happens? In the unlikely event that maybe there's fire also, fire tenders have to come in here. What do you do? What do you do? You see, it's so irresponsible. I don't know what goes into the minds of some Ghanaian workers. I don't know. So since Tuesday, I've not been able to move my car out.
This is my house. I am a dementia. I'm in contact with the government. I went there. I went there to see the foreman.
Please talk to me.
To see the foreman. And he told me that by today, everything will be done. And look at this. I have my car parking there.
All our cars are parking.
I have to rent a car to move around, or else where do I find my daily bread? Huh? This is the question.
This is the question he's asking.
Yeah. I'm asking you, help me answer this. The problem is, look at this. At least they could have moved this here, and then they could have misfaced and shifted this so that we can pass through. We're locked in. That's all we can say. We're locked in, so they have to come and move the job going, because we can't be sitting here and see this. This is no good. You can see it.
If there is a fire outbreak in a house on this lane or all over here, a whole community, you put them into this kind of situation from Tuesday till now. If there is a fire outbreak, let me ask you, if there's a fire outbreak over here, how do the fire service people come here? Then the fire service will stand over there and they say the fire service did not do their job well. What about the ambulance? They are not able to enter. So what do they say? They say the ambulance are not able to do their work.
Who's the contractor?
We don't know. We even want to know the contractor and to ask him wherever he learns his construction work. So look at my leg. My car is parked inside, and I'm a lecturer. I have to go to work. I have to take a trotro to work or what? And I don't work here. Are you getting it? And my car is parked inside. Are you getting it? Just because of this way. You are doing very good. You are doing a good job, but then the job must be done well. We're going to put in a suit. We'll sue them because of these inconveniences. For the number of days, they'll get this thing done well. They are doing a good job. It is good to construct a good road, to get the road done well, but the approach.
Meanwhile, maintenance engineer for the Gan East Municipal Assembly, Caesar Saki, has called on the residents to exercise patience as the project will inure to their benefits in the long run. He assured that pressure will be mounted on the contractor to clear the situation by Monday.
We have the contractor working in the area, and he has gotten to a stage where he's supposed to bring the gravels and come and spread. So I think they have brought the gravels on, but it's like where the drivers keep the gravels, it's like it has blocked some entrance. So I'm sure by Monday they'll just come to site to come and spread it. the people. It's unfortunate that it has happened like that. But normally when there's a construction work going on within the community, these are some of the difficulties sometimes the residents go through. At the end of the day, they are going to benefit. So I'll plead with them that they should bear with us. I'll make sure by Monday the contractor comes to site to come in.
For City News, I am Caleb Kudel.
You're welcome back from that story. Quite interesting. For me, it's refreshing that many Ghanaians are beginning to, let me say, be legally aware of some of these issues. And for citizens, residents who have been contemplating a class action suit, it's one that should interest all of us. Let me begin with you, Clement, on this matter. Are you surprised that citizens are this aware? I mean, in terms of the legality of issues and being awake to their rights, really?
I think that in the last 5 or 6, almost a decade now, Ghanaians have become very conscious legally. I mean, a number of things will contribute to this. We've had 2 election petitions that were shown live on TV. People's interest in the law, and now every conversation goes, I know I have rights, and I will sue you.
Yeah, I will sue you.
And the interesting one is, I will sue you to court. Then I ask, where else can you sue me to? It's court that. So the good thing is that when you have a citizenry that are aware of their rights, it also helps in nation development, because then it means that they are also aware of their responsibilities. And sometimes we don't match our rights and our duties and responsibilities together. So increasingly, if persons are becoming aware that we have certain rights, and under the law confers certain protections on us, the law permits us to enjoy certain social goods, then it means that implicit in that right is also a certain duty and responsibility to behave in a certain way. So I'm hoping that we'll get to a point where it is not only I know my rights, but I know my rights and responsibilities, and I play by them. So I think it's a very interesting development.
Okay, so let me come to you on that. On the preliminary issue of people now being legally aware.
Surely it's a great
right,
thing. I think a number of things, again, has contributed to that. Media organizations, for example, having programs like this to educate the public. There's been a lot of avenues in the last few years that churn out material or content that seeks to make people, aware of their rights, etc. So that the usual thing about the Ghanaian wanting to give everything to God, Fama Nyame, is giving way for people knowing their rights. And the good thing about that is when you know your rights in a society or in a system, there is, leadership sits up, there is better accountability. And once we have accountability, everybody knowing their rights, what to do and what not to do, the system functions properly. When you see something here and you know that is not supposed to be so, the law says that, but you're seeing something else, you call attention to it. If the person is not responding, if you have the means, you go to court to enforce it. So it actually helps in making the society a lot more orderly and living up to the objective of the law to ensure law and order. So I think it's certainly a great thing, and we must encourage it.
Okay, now let's come to the issue on the table. These residents, the matters they raise. Speak to an area of law in this country which is not, spoken of so much, but has a lot of relevance. Let's look at what the laws are generally on construction standards in the country, because with the focal point being this issue in Taifa.
So specifically in relation to road?
Yes.
So trying to prepare, if you look at the Highway Authority Act, 1997, that act will tell us in its interpretation section, will define road. Okay. And I think that is important that we get this definition. And when we get this definition, it will explain a number of things. It says, road includes a way or strip of land open to the public for the purpose of travel as a matter of right, and over which abutting property owners have the right to light, air, and access. and road, street lights, right of way, bridges, railway, highway, continue connected with public ways.
Okay.
So a road is that strip. It's a public way. You have access to it as of right, and you should also have access to light on your road, and also the property owners will have a right to use that road. Now, if we put this issue in context, from the video we've just seen, you see a road under construction. Now, the Local Government Act will tell you that you cannot undertake any physical development in any area without the written authorization of the local authority in the form of a permit.
Yeah.
So before you undertake any, and emphasis on any physical development, so anything that adds to putting structure on bare land, we have construed this power to mean when you are building only. But even if you want to dig a gutter in front of your house, if you want to construct a fence wall, any physical development, including roads, there is the requirement that you seek the written approval.
Even when the state has exercised its power of eminent domain and compulsorily acquired the land that is going to be used?
Because you are going to, yes, those are two different things. So the state has acquired the land, but the state is going to undertake a development. Okay. And the state's own law says you require a permit. Okay. It will be an easier process for the state because it's state to state talking than if it's a private person. But the requirement of a permit is still important. So that in the preparation of that permit for you to undertake physical development, a number of things will go into it, including a fire report, an environmental impact assessment. And what this environmental impact assessment will do is to analyze the effect of the development on adjoining communities.
Okay. So that will be done by the EPA, I guess.
That will be done by the EPA. So it's all at the local level. So the permit that will be issued to you to go and undertake that physical development will include a permit that will say you have satisfied the environmental impact assessment regulation, fire regulation, all those things to ensure that when you commence the development, the physical development, it does not impact negatively on the livelihoods of persons within the area where the development is going to take place. So the requirement of the permit is very key. So that if you have gone through the right processes, particularly the requirement of an EIA, it will bring up certain issues, say that, oh, this place is a residential area. So the best time to undertake any construction activity might be in the mornings, where everyone has moved out to work, but not at 5 p.m. when everyone is working. Also, as a requirement of the EIA, you would have met with the community, and then you have agreed on how this construction is going to take place. So when it comes to physical development, the regulation actually foresees a certain inconvenience and also places requirements to be followed to mitigate or abate those inconveniences. What we are seeing currently in the video you've shown us shows that maybe, yes, there's a permit, yes, there's an environmental impact assessment, but at the point of implementation, someone has refused to follow. And if you look at how laterite or dirt is being dumped on there's no intention to allow access. No. We have seen this happen in certain areas where they are dumped in such a way that they are still able to meander around these. So first, I think the district assembly that has issued a permit for the construction of such a road must ensure that they are following the terms of the permit, because this is a residential area. And if you've done an EIA properly executed, the community members will be aware of the development coming, the duration of that exercise, the inconveniences that will be caused by the construction, and how to abate it. So our Local Government Act tries to set the scene for this. And also, if you look at the Local Government Act, also where your actions has affected others, the authority has the right under law to abate that nuisance, because what is happening is the nuisance, and we'll look at in detail what this nuisance is, which category of law it will fall in. But clearly, the authority is also given to the local assembly to stop some of these things when they are happening and causing inconveniences to residents.
Okay, Selom, most of the time, these road projects are awarded most of the times at the central government level. And so there is a high likelihood that some of these contracts may just move to site and just start working. But from what Clement is telling us, irrespective of wherever the contract is coming from, there is the need for these processes to be followed.
Exactly so. I mean, exactly the reason why we have laws, and we earlier spoke about the orderly nature of things, or how things ought to be. So the contract will be awarded from anywhere. It could be the central government or local assembly, whoever anybody could award the contract. It is for a reason that the country is being, should I say, zoned or demarcated into district or municipal assemblies, such that all these assemblies have been given specific portions in bits to manage. So if there's a road project awarded from maybe central government, and that road project is supposed to be constructed or carried out in your vicinity, there should be a district assembly which should be interested in that. Indeed, the district assembly must give permit to that project, especially if it's a community project or a project, directly overseen by the district assembly or the municipal assembly. So like Clement said, he mentions the need for permits and all of those things that go into it, the environmental impact assessment. So there are people living in various communities. Some have various health challenges. When you do the environmental, the impact assessment, you will get to realize what the likely difficulties or challenges, the project will cause the people in the area will be. You get to know those challenges and you help to mitigate them. There's a need, so doing that also brings you in contact with the people, the stakeholder engagement. We've seen many times government projects about to take place, the people in the community are up in arms, simply a symptom of, poor or lack of stakeholder engagement. So we're talking about law, but we see that that particular requirement now cascades or tapers into other aspects of social lives. So when you engage the people, you talk to them about the project, of course, they know in this particular instance, they know it's a road. And one of the guys actually said they know the road is going to help them, but the way they are going about it is wrong. It's a public good, all right? And in matters like that, there's some amount of inconvenience that may be suffered by the people living in the community or living around the project. That amount of inconvenience must be reasonable. When it goes beyond a certain limit or a certain threshold, then that is a problem. So all these things must be discussed, all these things must be looked at before the project actually, kicks off. Like Clement mentioned, maybe it will require a lot of noise. So maybe it's a residential area per the zoning, requirements or rules of the area. Maybe it's a residential area. Between 9 and maybe 4 p.m., a lot of people are out of the area. Yeah. That will be the time to do certain things. Maybe it's an industrial area. And so around the same time period, a lot of people are at work. Maybe in the evenings, maybe 7 p.m. to maybe 12 midnight, people are not there. So it will be useful to undertake that exercise at that time. So the impact assessment, which is a requirement of law, will help you do all these things so that in the end, the inconvenience or discomfort caused the people in the area, who in the end will be the beneficiaries of the project, will not be too much to handle. So what we have seen over the years usually is that people get contract, they think the contract is from government, so they don't care, they railroad their way into anything and everything, not taking into account the rights and concerns of the people in the area. It's a government project, so everything must happen, everything must give way. So you come and dump laterite on my street, I have a car. I need to move from my house to work or to some other places. And because you're undertaking a government project, I cannot move. That surely is not proper. One person mentioned emergency services, like an ambulance or there's a fire outbreak somewhere, and the fire tender or the ambulance certainly cannot have access to the house.
Even this could even be a fertile ground for criminal activities to be plotted because movement is blocked.
So people don't. What we have seen over the years is a certain I wouldn't say lack of thinking, but we've not been smart in thinking about these things. The fact that it's a government project does not put the project above the law. The government itself has laws, the local government laws, the highway authority, etc. There are laws. Government is not above the law. Let's follow the laws. So it's good that people are now becoming aware, and that awareness, I think, is good for us, and it help us, have or build a more.
Let's go into this before we go on a break, Clement. I don't know whether it's right for me to use the word incidents, but I'm talking about what rights can accrue to members of this, or accrues to members of these communities if they want to challenge this.
So if we classify what is happening as public nuisance,
yes,
then we will start discussions in relation to compensation and damages, because nuisance, a public nuisance, is a person's activity interfering with the common public good that inconveniences me or causes substantial loss. And once we are able to establish that what is happening is nuisance, and even establish nuisance, there are also elements that you must satisfy. But for the purposes of what is happening, the Local Governance Act as well will define nuisance for us. Let's listen. It says, nuisance means any activity, operation, works, actions, neglect or any effect of it in, under or over land, which is offensive, injurious or prejudicial to amenity, public health, public safety, public peace, and public convenience.
So the foundation has been laid nicely for us. We'll take a break. When I come back, we'll wrap that up nicely and get further deeper into the conversation on the laws on construction, especially of roads in the country. Stay with us.
City TV is live on DSTV. Go to channel 363. On GoTV, access City TV on channel 182. On a digital TV, please press the menu button on the remote control and run a new search on your TV. Take note that without an antenna, you cannot access City TV on your television. City TV can be accessed on a free-to-air digital box like the GoTV and Star Times box. City TV, it's your world.
Welcome back from the break. This is still the question of law. So before we went on the break, Clement was talking to us about the requirements of public nuisance, the Local Governance Act, I believe 2016.
So the Local Governance Act will tell us from the definition we saw in section 43 that anything that inconveniences the public will fall within the domain of nuisance. So it means that we can classify that as a civil wrong. So it's a tort of nuisance. And if it's a civil wrong, then anybody who suffers from that inconvenience can have a cause of action. And then that person can sue, not to court, but sue to enforce his rights. When it comes to public nuisance, we must satisfy that there is unreasonableness in the act, and the act has caused substantial inconvenience.
So there's objective testing there.
Yes. So the unreasonableness. What will a reasonable man think of this action? Will the person say that this action is inconveniencing or not? These are the things that a court will look at. But the court has also developed, because the court also understands that there's the need for development.
True.
So we are now moving towards where we look at the social utility causing the inconvenience and weigh it against the gravity of the harm. So yes, we need roads. the road is important to linking the community and making life in the community bearable. In constructing the road, we will deny you of certain rights. You cannot have access as you will wish. Now, what the court will do is to balance the social utility against the gravity of the harm. Now, if the court can come to the conclusion that yes, this construction of the road is of a certain social utility, but because of the extent of the inconvenience, the gravity of the harm, we will give some compensation to persons who have suffered from this intervention. That does not mean that the action or the activity taking place is wrong. So the court is able to now balance the need to develop against the harm that we will suffer. And there are some other mitigating factors. For instance, if you know that it's an industrial area where every day there will be some construction going on, and you go and build your 5-story building in that area, it is your private funeral. That one you cannot. So the one undertaking the works or the construction there can say that you knew of the risk, you knew of the zoning, and you came.
So this is an action that will be brought against the contractor, not against the state.
So it's against the contractor, but you can add the district assembly.
Okay.
You will add the district assembly because it is the district assembly that has the authority to enforce the law on physical development.
True.
So then the district assembly will come and say, okay, we actually agree with you, plaintiff. They didn't follow the rules, so they are wrong. Or the assembly will say they followed the rules, but because of the balance between social utility and gravity of harm, the project should continue, and then you get some compensation.
Salam.
Yeah, so there's what we call the severity of the interference. Okay. All this is about interfering with your right of enjoyment of a certain property or something. So they talk about reasonableness or otherwise. The severity of that interference becomes very important. So, like you said earlier, the state or the court knows that there'll be some inconvenience caused you. But what is the severity of that interference or that discomfort? That will be key. So, for example, when you're constructing a road, there are things you must do. You must level it, etc. In leveling it and now you driving on it, it's a bit inconveniencing. But in the end, the road will be smoother, will be better to serve everybody right. So that level of inconvenience to the reasonable man may not be very inconveniencing or discomforting. So the court can say, for example, this is within limits. So, no nuisance is caused. But where the reasonable man perceives that this is unreasonable, then we have a problem. You get me? So there should be the severity of the interference. We must determine the severity of the interference. The interference must be disorderly, and there should be some harm or damage caused. And these are the how do you call it? The elements for thoughts like this, public thoughts, etc. I mean, nuisance. There could be private nuisance too. Now we're talking about public roads, etc. But there could be private nuisance as well, where an individual maybe by your house is disturbing you. Is disturbing you, playing loud music, etc. Or there's some stench coming from a certain house by you. You've tried everything, it's not working. That is also grounds for nuisance. But that kind of nuisance is private nuisance.
Somebody
and there's a rule, disturbing you beyond the allowable decibels. That becomes, nuisance as well. And the district assembly has a role in that. That is maybe an easier role, because that one you report to them, they serve notice on the person and try to abate or get the person to stop. If the person doesn't stop, there are things they do against the person. In the end, you may get compensated. The person may be moved away from there, etc. So, give you a typical example. Some time back, about 3-4 years ago, there was a company somewhere in Kuntuse, which I think is a tea-roll company or something.
Tomato paste factory.
Tomato paste, Sunshine, exactly. And the fumes from the factory disturbed the residents in the area so much. There was hue and cry about people. They didn't go to court. They used other administrative means to abate it or to stop the company from running. That clearly was a case of nuisance, because their health was endangered. Because when you look at the smoke in the area, that was not healthy. That was a public health disaster waiting to happen, and a number of things. So they came together, used some administrative means, went through the Ministry of Environment, etc., and got that,
abated. So that was a clear example of nuisance. We've seen many examples. Ghana Water Company, the telcos digging around.
A cement factory around Wager. People are complaining about.
So we see nuisance all around us. Sometimes we don't complain, but it's important that this education goes on so people know. So telcos constructing, laying their cables, they dig trenches, almost gullies everywhere. They don't even care that you enter your house. They dig the trench in front of your house, lay the thing, and then they leave it there. They bury it somehow, and then they leave it just like that for you to struggle. I remember there was an incident like that just in front of the office. So we wrote to the company. We found out what the company was.
They didn't know that it was a lot.
So we wrote to the company, and quickly they came to fix it.
When
we wrote to them
address.
threatening that they'll be sued. Actually, sometimes they know the right thing, but because they know people will not care, they leave it like that. So this morning, for example, when I was coming, I used a route that got me to the Tema motorway. Somebody had come to dump construction debris. I'm sure he was building a house, broke some things, came to dump it in the middle of the road because the person thought he was helping fill potholes. But in actual fact, the person was not helping fill potholes. And that thing there caused serious traffic. We're wondering, what's the cause of the traffic? When we got to the place, we realized somebody had dumped that there and got some boys to be there trying to spread it. But they were not spreading. They were there begging for money like they always do. So that particular action by whoever is caused a lot of inconvenience, interfering with people's enjoyment of the road. And that is private nuisance, So I think the more we know those things, the more we'll be able to demand, right things from people. So our society becomes, a lot more orderly.
Okay, what is the possibility of balance of skills? Look at how these citizens can put themselves together to file a class action suit against this contractor and the local assembly.
No, I think once they've identified a certain wrong that is inconveniencing them, they can come together and decide that they will issue a writ. They will need the services of a lawyer to advise them. They can actually sue without a lawyer. They can also even go to the Legal Aid Commission to try and get access to lawyers to help them in this action. So I think that's another thing we need to be stressing to our viewers and to Ghanaians, that it's not always that you will need a lawyer to go to court.
But to issue a writ,
yes, I mean, it's not. You need a lawyer. But I'm saying you can go to the Legal Aid Commission. The Legal Aid Commission will assist you in this process. So yes, a class action, like-minded person, and you must have suffered the inconvenience. Yeah. So if you don't live at Taifa, and because you know that there will be a possibility of some compensation, like it happened in the Maxam case, where people who were not in the town were now moving into the town. But it is persons who have been affected, because the defendant will also start looking at how to weaken your case. Oh, there are only 10 houses there. I see 15 house owners. So on that score, credibility is lost. So at the end of the day, any action like this before a court, as Salom has elaborately explained, will be the balancing of the utility, the social utility of the intervention, and the gravity of harm that has been caused.
So talking about defendants, yes, the defendants can also put up a defense. So it's not just enough to say, okay, this is a clear case of nuisance, so the person is guilty. The person can also put up defenses. And what are some of the defenses we can see? We can have statutory authority, for example. The persons can say, we are carrying this out based on, a law Parliament is passed, or based on statute, or this local assembly has empowered us to do this. So we are operating by law. So it is not just, in that case, it is not just the activity that becomes the issue. The how becomes important. So in this case we're looking at the construction of road. They have sanctioned, or they have permit to construct the road. How are they constructing the road? That becomes very important. So we'll have to look at that. Number two, we can look at consent. The people in the area, have they consented to the action? And that will come in from the impact assessment and the stakeholder engagements, etc. We can allow this level of discomfort. We can allow this level of inconvenience, this level of noise. When it goes beyond that, and that's when there's a problem. So once it's within a certain allowable limit, the people may be fined. So there should be some discussion, so the people must consent to it before you can do some things. It's also very important. There's what we call the reasonable use. And we've said that in various forms. How you are carrying out the activity, the use of the particular thing that is causing the nuisance.
Okay.
Will you say that use is reasonable? All of these are defenses that the defendant in that case, can have against.
Okay. Before we go on a break, let's quickly touch on what years ago the University of Ghana tried. They actually went ahead to pave all the roads, and then we decided to toll it. There was a fracas with national security, and there was people talking about whether they were private roads or they were state roads, and who had the right to use it, and all of that. But are there laws that govern the construction of roads by private persons?
So, if you want to construct a road as a private person, you need to get an approval, because when it comes to road construction, there are even standards on material, there are standards on size, and there are standards on marking. Yeah. So you cannot say that, I am a rich man and I want to construct the road, so I start digging and fixing gutters. You need to see the local authority, and this also falls under the fiscal development issue that I raised earlier on. So then they will give you the right permits, and they will give you the guidelines and prescriptions on how to construct. Now, when you construct the road, if the road is constructed in a public area, it ceases to be your private property. So you are contributing to nation development. So the University of Ghana case was very interesting, and the issue was whether or not the University of Ghana is a public university, and if a public university constructs a road, they can deny access. They did comparison with some other international universities, but at the end of the day, the UG constructed the road. They have their toll gates, and they allow access. And that's another thing, that once you have constructed and it falls within the wide category of public goods, you no longer do not own it.
Yes.
But if you are also given the authority to construct it, and it is within an area that you have rights over to allow people to enter and exit, you can still control it. So
through the law.
Through the law, you can, because if I have my house and I've constructed the road around through my house, that gives you access to the next town. But there are other roads that can take you to the next town.
I can decide to use my house. Of course.
I can decide to allow people to. So that's where.
Okay. Something to add.
Yeah. So surely there are rules and there are laws around everything. And indeed, we are getting into an arena where very soon I'm sure the state will be encouraging private persons to construct roads and toll them. All as part of revenue mobilization, not depending so much on central government, etc. To toll the road, so over a period of time, they're able to recoup their investment. So yes,
maybe in return get some tax breaks,
etc.
Yes.
So there are things like that. Maybe we will have to relook at the laws around those, tighten them a bit, so it's easier for more people to engage in road construction. It's a major investment. It requires a lot of capital to do. So if you want to engage in it, you must ensure that it's right. Give an example. I was involved in a church activity. We wanted to construct road from a part of the church to link another part of the road, and gutters and all. We wanted to do it on our own. The assembly came and said, no. You can't just do that. So I think the compromise was that we will fund it. They gave us the specifications, etc. And that was done. And it's important because it is a public road, and you can't just do it anyhow, because there are standards, and they must ensure that your construction meets the standards of the assembly or the national standard, so that once it's constructed, so it's not substandard, because there are risks involved, etc. So that's how it works. The assembly must surely come in. If you want to do it on your own, there are rules, etc. Which govern.
So there you have it. We'll take a break. When I come back, we still have some few issues to discuss before we draw down the curtain on this week's edition of The Question of Law. We'll be back after the break.
City TV is live. On DSTV, go to channel 363. On GoTV, access City TV on channel 182. On a digital TV, please press the menu button on the remote control and run a new search on your TV. Take note that without an antenna, you cannot access City TV on your television. City TV can be accessed on a free-to-air digital box like the GoTV and Star Times box. City TV, it's your world.
Welcome back from the break. This is still the question of law. I have Selo Madonu, Esquire, and Clement Kojo Kapam, Esquire, giving us some legal education. First part, we'll be talking about the laws that govern construction, specifically construction of roads in the country. This is the docket segment where we give real-time legal solutions to problems that you have sent in. And this is the issue on the docket today. Hello, a question of law. I want to know if your esteemed counsel can educate us on the goods sold are not returnable policy that some establishments seem to have adopted. So I bought a watch from a shop in one of these malls. I took it home, and after a few days, the magnet attached to the hook to the watch began to malfunction. I realized this could be problematic, so I decided to take it back for replacement. The attendant was hesitant in replacing it, even though I showed her the receipt that indicated that I bought it days before. I had to keep insisting before it was changed for me. I want to know if that policy is legal. If it is, then how can a customer or consumer protect themselves from making faulty transactions? If it is not, how can the consumer insist on their rights if the seller tries to pull a fast one on them with this clause? If someone finds themselves in this kind of situation, how can the law help them? So, contract, exclusion clauses, sale of goods, I can see all of these hovering somewhere around this question.
Precisely.
Yeah.
So, I think that the first point we'll need to make to the person who sent in the question is that, yes, goods sold are not returnable. However, there are exceptions where goods sold can be returned, because that's where the importance lies. If you look at the Sale of Goods Act, it will define goods for you. And when you buy goods, the seller transfers all his rights, property, title, possession, everything to the buyer in exchange for a price. So then it means that the seller has no rights over the goods again. Yeah. Everything now belongs to the buyer. However, you went to buy goods, and not just any goods, goods of a certain quality fit for purpose. So if I enter your shop and I bought a watch, my expectation is that that watch should be able to tell me time and the right time. So that when it is 12 and I look at my watch, it should be telling me 12 and not 3 o'clock, and not be going anti-clockwise. So the goods must be fit for purpose and meet a certain quality. So if I buy the watch and I realize that there is a certain defect. Now when it comes to defect also, there are two types. Defects that you can see. So at the shop when you pick the watch, you could see that the magnet or one of the arms was shaking, but you still took it. And defects that are latent, that you will not see. Now if the defect you are complaining of is a defect that is latent, and a latent defect is a manufacturer's fault. A latent defect is not a defect that arises out of use, wear and tear. So if it's the manufacturer's fault, then it means that the goods are defective, even though the sign is there, goods sold are not returnable. I am able to return it because there is a defect that prevents me from enjoying the goods and prevents me from enjoying the price I have paid for the goods. So yes, once you have entered into a contract to purchase goods and there are latent defects, manufacturer's faults, you are able to return the goods. But in returning the goods to, time is of the essence. Yes. So it must be within a reasonable time. However, whether you are able to return or not also depends on whether you went in for brand new goods or second-hand goods. Now, our case law will tell you that if you buy a second-hand car, you don't expect it to work for you like a brand new car.
Of course.
So if it's going and it's jerking on the road, you take it as
is. Or the alternator is giving you a problem.
You take it like that. But if you buy a brand new car and there are issues with it and the issues will affect the way you use it, you are able to also approach the goods sold non-returnable in a certain way.
So it doesn't, irrespective of the exclusion clauses that may be on the receipt. Most of the time, I'm told that to escape liability, most of these companies put these exclusions.
No, that's what I'm saying. The exclusion clauses are there because the company believes that I have sold to you quality. Exactly. Okay. So you are able to also, for want of a better word, exclude the exclusion clause by coming back to say that the goods sold and
defective. Okay.
So exclusion clauses, for example. So I see those things everywhere.
And most of us don't like looking at those things.
Yes.
You don't even keep the receipts.
You don't keep the receipts.
The exclusion clause may say one thing, but if the defect in there or the problem being complained of, for example, is onerous, is beyond the ordinary man's immediate, examination eyes, perhaps, that throws it back to the seller or the manufacturer in the case. So if I buy a watch, the watch was working before I left the place, I get home, the watch isn't working again. That clearly could be a defect which was not obvious or apparent to me at the time I was buying it. So you cannot tell me that goods sold, are not returnable in that sense. Of course, there are instances where that will apply. So it's so very prevalent in our society, partly also because we do not have, consumer protection laws properly so-called. In other jurisdictions, consumer protection laws are there and they are clear on what you can do. I think some time ago, Parliament was considering a consumer protection bill. I don't know where we've gotten with that. But I think once it is passed, it will help streamline a lot of these things. The important point to note is that goods sold must be fit for purpose. If the goods sold to me is not fit for purpose, then there is no point actually in keeping it, aside from all the exceptions, etc. It must be fit for purpose. If it's not fit for purpose, there's no business in me keeping it. So I think one of the things we must also encourage is to push Parliament to do the right thing by passing the law, which will help all of us, understand these things properly, because the law should have been clearer, black and white, and we will know what to do and what the exceptions are, what kinds of goods we can return, under what circumstances can we even call for a repair, a replacement of that good.
No, and even where you buy the goods from, if you go to Circle, Tiptoe Lane, to buy iPhone 13 without a charger, and they tell you goods sold are not returnable, try and return it there. So where you buy the goods from is also of importance. So you've bought the goods from the right person, you've paid the right price, and the right price here, reasonable price. So someone can sell it to you at a discount, but it's the right price. You have the receipt for it, and then when you take it home and it's not working, then you can say that goods sold are not returnable. You can exclude that and bring the goods back.
Okay, all right. We'll take a break here. Hello, welcome back from the break. This is still the question of law. Here's a legal trivia for the week.
Legal trivia. Do you know that a person who dishonestly receives property which that person knows has been obtained or appropriated by a criminal offense punishable under this chapter commits a criminal offense and is liable to the same punishment as if that person had committed that criminal offense? This can be found in Section 146 of the Criminal and Other Offences Act. Take note and do the needful. That will be all for our legal trivia today.
That's how I draw the curtains on this week's edition of The Question of Law. I had on set Clement Kojo-Akapam, Senior Lecturer, Faculty of Law, GIMPA, and Salom, I don't know, who wants me to, of course, emphasize the fact that Clement Akafan was the lecturer in commercial law at the Gimpa Law Faculty. But my name is Jude Mentofoko. I sat in for regular host David Kwekusechi. Question of Law will be back on your screens next week.